Hello, I'm Dr. Rebecca Jez from the Department of Learning and Teaching in Souls, and I am here with my colleagues who have been working. We've all been working collaboratively to bring you this event. It's our first event since we moved from the Department of Learning and Teaching's Black Lives Matter Social Justice and Learning or an Advocacy series to the USD Black Lives Matter and Beyond Social Justice and Advocacy series. So we're really excited to see this growth happen, and we're especially honored to be funded by the USD Strategic Initiative Grant. And so, yes, so I'm going to hand this off to Marcus to give us a land acknowledgement.
Hello, everybody. As already said, my name is Marcus. I am one of the hashtag BLM initiatives graduate assistants. It's my first semester here, and I'm just really excited to be collaborating with Dr. Jez and something I'm very passionate about. So this is just a land acknowledgement that we like to do here at USD. We like to honor and pay our respects to Native American and Indigenous people who obviously were here before us and before, the civilization of America was even infrastructured. So we like to honor them just with a few sentences. This is our land acknowledgement. And we just take a moment of silence to pay our respects. All right, thank you guys, thank you. So for our initiative, this is our solidarity statement. Just a little bit about what we as a group hope to achieve, what we strive towards, making known that this is, this is what we embody as a group. And our call to action is an injustice against one person is an injustice against all. And it's really just a blanket statement that's saying we can't have equality unless we're all represented equally and taken care of equally. So that doesn't matter who we are. And now I'm going to pass the agenda off to my other colleague on the call.
All right. Hello, everyone. It's great to see everyone here again. So today, our agenda, what we are going to be working on, of course, we just went through the welcome and the solidarity statement. Excuse me. We are going to be going through some, I say, fun projects here. We're talking about intersectionality, going through a book discussion, breakout session. Then we'll discuss some items with our session. We'll come back as a whole group and discuss with each other. We'll have some resources and closing remarks for everyone as well. So definitely going to be a wonderful time today. And let's see here. And then, so what we're going to get started with here, we are going to, as you can see, the QR code is here. We ask that everyone can jump into that QR code. We also have the menti.com link in the chat here. And what we want to do, we're going to basically, if you guys try opening and let us know if you have any problems, but we are going to be talking about some of the privileges, as you can see in this chart here, domination that we might experience. And so if you open, can everybody open it? Let's see, just shake yes if you can't, no, not yet. Okay, let me try the QR code. Okay, it is in the chat.
I put it in the chat, so.
Okay, everyone got it now? All righty, wonderful. So what we're going to be working through, describing our intersectionality. What identities do you identify with, and how does privilege, oppression show up for you? And so we'll take some time to go through that. And if you can fill in some answers, that'll be great. And I will open it as well. There we go. Okay.
So as you're finishing up, we just have a short video. This is with one of the authors of the book, Stamped, Reynolds, who is being interviewed. And so we thought it was a good way to just kind of start this event.
How do you try to make sure that, Blackness and the experiences of Black people are both universal in their lesson, but also incredibly specific? Because I know that there are little kids that read about, all the things that you talk about within this book and other books, and they feel like that's me. Like, that's exactly me. Like, I know what this feels like. I've been there and I want to overcome it, or I want to do that, or I dream of these things. But there are kids that aren't Black that see these books and hopefully and honestly still take away similar things. So how do you navigate that? And do you feel like you have to be conscious of it, or it just comes with the nature of the way you write and the stories you tell?
I think that there's a beauty in honesty. And I think that when you're being honest, if you're truly being honest and you're working on a page and with your intention, then it will connect to the honesty in the person who is taking that art in. Right. If I am my true self, then your true self will recognize that, even if it is not the same as my true self. Right. I think it's in the specificity that we create universality. Right. It isn't in sort of this sort of broad milquetoast way of being like, if everything is vanilla, everyone will connect. No. If it's really specific, then everyone will sort of transport themselves into the story with their own sort of specific details, right? Or they'll acknowledge the story as different from them and figure out what universal truths still play out in their lives so that they can find themselves in the story. And it's all good. I think the other thing for me though, Marley, is I'm trying to figure out how to create the Black default. I'm trying, in the same way that we read books, and if the character's race isn't said, we default those characters to white. I want people to read my books and default my characters to Black in a way to normalize the fact that Black kids get to do everything. We get to do everything, right? Yeah. And so, and that's very important for me. And I ain't never had no little white kid come to me and tell me they felt the way, ever. If anything, they like, yo, it feels weird that every adult keeps asking me if it bothers them that the kid. You know what I mean? For the kids, they like, oh, a dope story is a dope story.
How do you try to make sure that, Blackness?
Richard?
All right. So what we're going to be working on here is going to be doing the book discussion, and we're going to be going through race as a social construct, history's influence on present day, and intersectionality again. And we do have a link here for Palette. So we want to review all of your insights, any feedback you have from the book. We would definitely love that. So we'll work on that now. And
are you going to put it in the chat, or should I help you with that?
Yes, I will. Okay. 1 second. I'm trying to get to it. I'm like, 1 second. It's here. Actually, Dr. Jez, if you don't mind, can you?
I don't mind at all.
Got it. Sorry.
That's all right. There's always a few technology issues in every event, right? So one of the things that we wanted just anyone, and if you were able to read the book, or even if you weren't able to read the book, we thought that we could open up this discussion where kind of people did a brain dump. And so we identified 3 themes that were in the book and also just here in life. One of them being race as a social construct, history's influence on present day, and intersectionality. And we also have other thoughts. So if you just want to hit the plus sign, then that will open up a box that you can then type into. There we go. So you can type in there, and also this is anonymous. So it's just about, let's see, I've got a whole bunch open. Just about us just trying to kind of think about what are some of the themes and how do we see them playing out. And this will get us ready for our breakout group discussion.
All right, so these are just some discussion norms that we would like everybody to, pay attention to and be mindful of as we proceed throughout today's conversation. Just listen with intentionality and be okay with awkward silences. Sometimes we need space and time to process deep thought processes and bigger concepts than we're used to grappling with on regular day-to-day experiences. So we ask that you be patient. speak your truth. Do not be afraid to share anything that is burdening you or weighing heavy on your shoulders. Please, we encourage you to use this space and use your voice as your main tool to speak about anything you might be passionate about. We ask everybody to respect confidentiality. Just what happens here. Do not use it against somebody in a, maybe in a harmful manner. And we just ask that you don't speak ill upon anybody experience and lean into discomfort. A lot of these topics are very deep and cover some dark and disturbing history at a lot of times. So we just ask that, even though it may be hard to lean into it, especially if you feel it's kind of hard to connect overall, we just ask that you take a little time and mindfulness towards that. Be mindful of time so all can share. We do want to get as much input as possible. I think that's just a general conversation rule of thumb. Recognize that this is unfinished work. I think that's also pretty self-explanatory. I mean, the book does a great job of exemplifying how it's a continuum. It's changing with the years, with the decades, and with the people that continue to come and go throughout the time. So it's unfinished work as long as it's continuing. Recognize your communication style. Some people have more nonverbal styles and maybe aren't as comfortable using all of their words. So we just ask that you be mindful of that. And examine your own assumptions and perceptions. A lot of times when you get the chance to collaborate in this type of discussion, you're going to be exposed to a lot of different perspectives and viewpoints, and you're going to get some good ideas about your own and where you stand and, some of the ideals you hold on to. So we just ask that you be mindful of everybody's perspectives and perceptions, and we try not to tear anybody down because of it. All right, so we will be going into breakout sessions in a little bit. We're going to be reviewing, the Padlet themes that we just worked on. Some other things that we're going to also be encouraging, for participation purposes. If you have an aha moment that you experience during reading this book, we ask that you bring that to your breakout session and, really get passionate about sharing that. What's been your experience when it comes to racism and anti-racism? I mean, I'm sure everybody in here has, at least one, but most likely many experiences with either one of these concepts. So we ask that you bring your insights, as everybody's insights are valuable. What are you currently doing in your workspace or community to be an anti-racist, or what are you going to do? We just want to make, again, that connection to the real world. Maybe you're already taking action into being an anti-racist, or maybe you've just been strongly inclined and really want to take that next leap and you're not quite sure how to. We want to dive a little deeper into that. Of course, anything else you would like to share is also welcomed. We love, related topics and just being able to connect worlds and ideas. So anything else that you feel like fits right into this, that would be great. And then resources to add to our list. We try and provide resources, in relevancy to what we're trying to put on and trying to promote. So if you know of any good resources that are right up the alley, please do not hesitate to share. We're just welcome to resources. So yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move everybody into groups now. And Richard, is your stuff working, or should I join your group?
I am good now.
You're good. Okay.
Had an update going, but we're good.
Okay, sounds good. So in the groups, everyone will just be, you can look back onto the Padlet for ideas of discussions, or if something else has come up and you want to bring that up. Last week, we had a really awesome mid-book discussion that Richard and Marcus hosted, and there were some really amazing when in the parts that I was there, discussions that were happening. And so we really wanted to create this space for us to continue these ideas. So I will open the rooms now. Oh, and we'll have, I'll check in with everybody in 20 minutes. So, and see how we're doing. Okay. Okay, it looks like we are all back. Did Richard's group want to share out a summary of what you all talked about?
Yeah, so I'll share out. We of course we discussed the book, but there's some important points that we tried to highlight and that we discussed in detail. And if anyone from the group wants to add any more, please jump in. But one thing that came to mind, that came to our discussion, was reestablishing ourselves. As we read the book, it's not an easy read, and sometimes it's not easy to reflect on some of the things that we are reading, but to reestablish and just understand that you're learning and growing, and that there's still a lot of work to do. That was something that came up in our group, and I thought that was very powerful. The other thing I want to credit Summer for saying this, but it was something that was very powerful as well, which is I don't own my friends, and it was in relation to Thomas Jefferson, understanding his whole relationship with the slaves that he had, but I don't own my own friends. I thought that was great. It should be they should, as Summer said, and leading the way in creating some change, which Jefferson didn't do much of in the regards when it came to slavery and things of that nature. So those were 2 points that I wanted to point out because the reestablished was probably my most powerful in our group. So, and anyone else have anything, please, Raquel or anyone else, please add in. No? Or Martha. Okay, I think that was our group.
Marcus, someone from your group?
Sure, I don't mind representing our group. So our group, I really enjoyed our conversation. We had a lot of collaboration and input. One of the main things that really stood out was about just not being as much of a bystander in certain positions when things are happening around you. A lot of the conversation was about just overthinking in the moment about what should I say, and then later on in the aftermath, what could I have done, or I could have done this, or I know I could have had used these skills. And that moment was just very real, because I feel like we've all either experienced it or have been with somebody in that experience where sometimes you just don't know what to do right there in the heat of the moment, and it kind of gets you, it kind of stuns you. You're a little off guard, and it's a little discomforting. But with that active reflection, you kind of understand how you can go about encounters such as that, and then better prepare yourself in the future for having encounters like that. And then also just how how these themes have changed throughout history, and how now we're in a space where there's so much influence that happens via the social media, and how it's so it's not as regulated in terms of having a platform and having very radical opinions in any direction that you would like. And just really getting a general idea of what today's young people experience as racism, and what they would like to see as far as change and advancement in society. And we talked about how the best way to go about it, solutioning that, was we have to go to the heart. We have to get to the heart of it. We have to get testimonials from these people and understand their experiences. Just like how the book talks about, the best way to understand is to actually just be around and get to know them, and understand what their struggles represent to them, how they see things. Perspective has been a huge thing that we've talked about today. And I think that it's crucial to look at in terms of, how are we best serving people overall?
I love that. Very nicely done. All right, I'm going to share my screen and then we will see. Okay, it's still working. Okay. So one of the things that we try to do is provide resources. And so we have a few different resources that are here and that we'll be sending out in the, thank you acknowledgement email here in a few days. But one of them is the Zinn Project, and this is great for teachers. If you haven't heard of the Zinn Education Project, and you are trying to do or integrate anti-racist work into your classroom, this is a great resource. And so they have one even around this book that you can go into, and for different chapters, they've highlighted different work that is available. If you are in the business sector, you can see here that the United Nations actually put together different resources around anti-racist action for businesses. If you are in the medical field, we found a resource that they pulled different resources or research from different universities, webinars and trainings from different medical schools. And we have a list there too. And then we have Dina Simmons, who is really wonderful. So I think we've got enough time. We can play.
There are many teachers already doing great work, and I just want to take the time to thank them and to big them up for the magic that they're creating in their classrooms. We can all get better at our practice and put in the anti-racist and equity lenses to our work to ensure that we do no harm. Good instruction should be student-centered, and student-centered is being culturally responsive and being anti-racist. And so for the teachers, one way to get better is really to start with self. Really check in with yourself. What are my biases? How are we being self-aware? So, if I'm a teacher or curriculum developer, let's check this for an anti-racist lens. Let's check this for a culturally responsive lens. Now let's do the research and ask people what they mean and really be deliberate about that self-awareness so that we're not imposing our values. We have to be mindful of our power and not abusing it. Another thing that I would say is the collective work. Get together with your crew and learn together. And that learning can happen through book clubs. It could be looking at videos and going to talks or sitting through online Zoom conversations. There's so many ways that we can learn, but it doesn't just stop at reading or watching. It's talking about, now that we know, how will we do better? So coming up with a plan to do more with each other and to hold each other accountable. I also have people think about what's their curricula look like. Is what I'm teaching representative of my students? Am I affirming my students in what I teach and how I teach? Am I affirming my students when I interact with them? So really asking those questions of self and of our practice so that we ensure that our students are safe. I would also push educators to really think about the larger context. Where are students coming from? What are their stories? How can I learn their stories? What's my plan to get to know the stories of my students, of their families? And I think we need to really start asking our students and our communities what they need. I think too often we go up in communities, we go into our classrooms and we think we know what people need. If we don't ask them what they need, we're not giving them what they need. And so we constantly have to ask the people that we are in partnership with how we can do better and how to learn together. There are many teachers already doing.
Oh, sorry, hold on one second. There we go. So one of the things that we have been able to do with this event is, I did not plan on giving the closing remarks, by the way, so but I'm here and we're doing it. But one of some of the most exciting parts about this event is that we were actually able to give away almost 40 copies of this book using the grant monies that we got from the strategic plan. And that was such an amazing feat that we are getting it out there. People are reading, people are talking about it. Not everyone was able to come today or last week, but I really do believe that the more work we do to get people access to readings like this, then the more that this movement and this work will go forward. So here are just some of the closing remarks on some of the powerful things that I heard today, and then thoughts that I also had. So one is, of course, that influence of media on the narrative. We know that we've got different news stations and newspapers that kind of do a different lean on the messaging that is going out to people. And so the more that we can do deep dives into messaging, into making sure that people are having access to hearing about these ideas and talking about these ideas, the better. I loved the idea of the next generation because I think that's really important. We have a new group of learners and thinkers and people who have different perspectives on lives. And, I got into social justice work in the late 90s, early 2000s, and it looked so different from where it is today. And so it's very exciting to be part of this work as it continues to grow and expand. And, now someone can say something like anti-racist and people aren't, questioning whether that's really a thing. Instead, they're more questioning the interpretation of it. Praxis, which is that continuous reflection and action. So how can we continue to show up in communities, in our lives, in our work, in our passions, in our families and friends and communities, and reflect on our piece of this anti-racist experience and intersectional experience of identity. So kind of going back to that very first activity that we had, where we asked everyone, okay, what is your intersectional identity? That we don't all just fit in this perfect little box, that we all have our watercolor, bleeding into things experience. And so really thinking about how we can continuously reflect on our own experiences, on our own belief systems, on our own biases and blind spots, so that we can do better. That idea of what does change mean and how can we become change agents should be something that we're all continually grappling with and actively engaging with, knowing that we will make mistakes, but that we're growing. And so really leaning into the work, not calling people out, but calling people into that, saying, okay, how can I understand this more? How can I understand myself? How can I understand my community? How can I understand my fellow humans? I always love Maya Angelou's quote of, and I may be butchering it a little bit here, but once you know better, do better. And that really is the growth. And then finally, that idea that we need that shift within our hearts, our minds, and our souls to best serve our community. And that this will come with time and continued intentional support of this work. So our last little bit before I have us kind of do a little closing is, first of all, we would love to get feedback on this event. Richard, can you put the link to the feedback form into the chat? And then also we would love for you, if you haven't done so already, to register for our November event. We're really excited to bring some guest speakers to be determined still or finalized, but to talk about racism and professionalism and different trends and experiences and strategies for addressing bias and discrimination. And, really thinking about how we can continue to learn strategies to support ourselves and each other as we go through this. Oh, look at that. And I just looked in the chat, and thank you, Martha, for putting another great resource in there. So I'm going to go back to, thank you for putting the registration link in as well. And there's a QR code there if you'd like to use the QR code. But I was hoping maybe we could go back to the Menti where we did the intersectionality activity. So I'll go back to that QR code. There it is. And maybe if you can go through and use that QR code, and could one of you maybe put the Menti link into the chat? And go back there and just think about any kind of shifts or changes that you have had after reading this book around your identity as an anti-racist. And remember, this is anonymous. So whatever you write is just to kind of capture any sort of shifts or changes that you've seen as we've continued to really look at the privilege and oppression that exists within our communities. And for those of you who came on the later side, one of the questions that we had everyone do on the Menti was just describing your own intersectionality and what identities you identify with, and how does privilege and oppression show up for you. So. All right. Well, thank you all for being a part of this. If anyone has any last words or thoughts or anything that they'd like to share, we do have a few more minutes left until we hit 5:30, but it is open. But I do just want to say thank you on behalf of the university for being here today and participating in this work.
Yes, I have just something. Thank you, Dr. Jez, and for the BLM team for leading this great session. I'm glad I drove 5 hours and I got a chance to join the last hour, which I'm grateful for. It means a lot to be present. I think the only thing I want to share is don't be discouraged by the small numbers, because this work is going to be pretty lonely often. And you can look at the numbers tonight, and the numbers are not what they should be, because we all need this. But it's a replica of when you are in your everyday lives, where it's not going to be many that think like you when it comes to anti-racism work. So it's really what it is, but we can't allow to discourage us. My motivation is this: if I can touch one person, and that one person touch one person, and that one person touch one person, I believe we're doing our job. We can't change a classroom. If you can't change a classroom, change a person. And hopefully that change is within you first to be able to, mimic that behavior. So my last words, just don't get discouraged when you see small numbers and when you're the only one there trying to be equitable. You keep pushing, because at some point it's going to make a difference. Whether it makes a world difference, but it could definitely make a difference in your community. And that's where change starts. Thank you.
I want to jump in on that and just say the numbers are not as small as we think, because I just started listening to this book 2 days ago. So this would be day 3. And I told you I only got to chapter 19. And I think I've mentioned this book to no less than 10 people. 2 of whom I know have already downloaded it on Audible. And while I was listening to this book to and from school each day, my son has been listening with me. So we are making a difference, as Dr. Latham says. This might be a small group, but it's bigger than we think.
We did have 50 people sign up, so.
Yeah, but the Padres are playing.
We are up against the Padres, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, the Padres on a Friday, that's tough competition right there.
Yeah, especially when you haven't been in playoffs since 2006. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for being here. And yeah, so go Padres. I assume they're still playing, but have a wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you.
And thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here.
Thank you, guys.
And Rebecca, I want to ask you a question about the BLM, our whole strategic initiative, which is not related to.
I'll stop